So, joining you live from Goa today in India. We're doing our third meditation Sunday. Almost missed the light here, but now we're here with you and trying to keep that consistency. And in fact, every day this week on the retreat, been doing a meditation in the afternoons, and it's really been good. I think, as I said the last week, as I remember from Dubai, the main thing is, I think, consistency, and I had it for many years, and then one of these things that just kind of drops away. And for some reason, it's easier to get on a mat and practice asana than it is to sit down. And I think one reason is that it appears to be complex or difficult, or there needs to be stuff around it. I'm not good enough at it, and to that end, I think one of the most unhelpful misconceptions about the meditation is you're trying to stop your thoughts, right? Because if you're trying to stop your thoughts, you end up with this never-ending battle. Because from my perspective, and from certain, not all spiritual traditions, but from the ones that I particularly appreciate, the mind is an organ of thought. The mind's always going to cast out thoughts. It's not a question of stopping the thoughts. It's just a question of not being so attached to the thoughts. So they're going to run anyway. The battle in the meditation to stop the thoughts and the feeling of struggle and dissatisfaction with yourself because you've never actually stopped the thoughts. And then you get the whole thing is just this push and pull where it's quite unpleasant. And then why would you go back to something like that when you feel like you failed and you're just battling against yourself? And so the easy reframe of this is, just don't try and stop the thoughts. Why not accept everything that's there? The inconvenient sounds from the road, your own superficial or inconvenient thoughts, everything that's there, the pain in your bottom, sitting down, whatever it is, accept everything. Yeah, it's all part of the whole picture. Yeah, and the way I look at it is, if you imagine like a clear expanse of water, or you're looking over a mountain or a big view, a really big view, and you imagine that kind of brightness and expansiveness, and it's unlimited, that sense of just unlimited freedom, and that is the mind. And within that, albeit a little bit cliche, there's always clouds, isn't there? And there's always thoughts. And so we're both things all the time, because what contains your thoughts, what's looking at the thoughts, is obviously something behind the thoughts, which is holding the thoughts. And that's the expansiveness of what we could call big mind, or a luminous mind. And that's always there. And I think it's always there available to us, but we have to practice kind of toggling between the two. So today, without further ado, we're going to do a simple meditation again, which is just simply to imagine that expansiveness. It's a brightness, it's a clearness, albeit a sea or a sky, and hold that feeling. And then we will notice all the other distractions coming into that feeling, and don't push them away. They're part of that whole. Yeah, they're all part of that whole thing. And you'll notice that you start to get fixated on that limitation of feeling of mind, and then you can just kind of bring it back to that expansiveness that's holding the whole thing. I think someone said, I quite like this quote, kind of paraphrasing, a long time back, that we really, the problem is that we get afraid. We get afraid of the expansiveness, the bigness of a consciousness, and so we purposefully limit it down to know it. Mind wants to know it. Our normal everyday mind wants to know something because it's afraid, and the fear is that we're actually a lot more unlimited, less limited, and bigger than what we think we really are. But we pigeonhole ourselves just to try and get a grip, in a way, and that's necessary for everyday life. It's necessary, but outside, but within everyday life as well, it's good to be able to kind of get a perspective on yourself and your situation. So there's a sense that one can use this meditation to kind of try and go into smaller mind and bigger mind. And I feel you can you can move between the two in daily life. Once you get a practice of seeing that there's different minds there, there's not the one mind. And I forget his particular name now, but there's a few psychologists that do mention this idea that you've got this kind of, I think I get confused, right or left brain, and then one's expansive and one's analytical, and we've just purely now living in one side of our brains, and in the analytical aspect of it, in this kind of constant kind of overthinking mentality, when there's another side of our brain which we're now not using at all. And perhaps it's even in this week, I've felt in sitting with the people on the retreat that it's become more clear that you could definitely can start to balance that out a bit. And going into that more expansive mind, of course, in everyday life, you have to come to the limited mind to play the game of being yourself in the world. But there could be maybe a little bit more space in between where you can go back into that expansiveness and then go back into your persona. Persona being the Greek word, well, it's the Latin word actually for mask. Yeah, and the person comes from the Latin as a mask, and we need to use the mask, but nevertheless, knowing that you're maybe something other or something broader and wider than the mask itself. So, having said all that, Teresa, your comments.
Do you have your timer?
I don't have my timer. Do we need a timer? Let's go free flow today. So, within 10 minutes, I'll time it in my head, and would just think about the expansiveness of sky. Keep your mind on the fact that's containing the whole experience of your isness, your being, yeah? And that expansiveness will continuously be kind of clouded over or limited by clouds, yeah? Or by details, yeah? But then you go back out into that expansiveness again. And so it's just sitting, yeah? It's not trying to limit the thoughts, not trying to stop the thoughts, not being dissatisfied. You cannot do this wrong. I think that's the most important premise to start with. You can't do this wrong. Sit and enjoy it. Enjoy the expansiveness of your mind. And when you limit yourself again, just come back to that place where you are. Those just simply everything. Yeah. So
Ready?
let's make a starter. Try and sit up and find a place where you feel, the spine is balanced. Not straight, but just simply balanced. You want to feel like you could sit there for a few minutes without too much discomfort. And after you find that space, you're rocking your pelvis so you can find the place where your head sits into the bowl of your pelvis. Take a few deep breaths. After all this is said in the Bhagavad Gita, 2 details about yoga altogether. Sit with a straight spine and breathe evenly through the nose. Yeah, simple as that. And let's make a start just for a few 5-10 minutes. Go into that big mind, and when you lose it, go back again. Okay. Not sure how many minutes that was. Probably not the requisite number. But it's a practice. And we're not sitting on the most comfortable seats today. Probably that's something to mention as well. Setting up the place, and unfortunately, because we do travel a lot, we don't have that one place. But I think it does make a big difference if you set yourself in the same place. You just feel a sense of that, well, not to be too ambiguous about things, but that certain energy of what you're doing, it stays around the area of your place and your cushion or your setup, I think. Yeah. Anything else? But yeah, I think one thing you do learn is that there's definitely a feeling tone that you experience when you go into yourself, at least for 5 minutes. And I think that, was what we lack these days in modern culture, is that we don't have any times when we just take time out during the day. There's no modern rituals or anything like that where you might just have a little break from your reality and go into a kind of more reflective, more expansive state of mind. Because of course we're these two states of minds, a smaller us state of mind and a bigger us, let's say. And I don't think we ever practice a bigger us these days, but definitely when you do this and you sit down, you definitely feel there is that sense of a larger thing outside your analytical kind of worrying mind that's there as well. And I think once we've got a taste for that, I think that the meditation theoretically should start to flow a little easier, and we make more time for it. That's the plan. We're making more time for this together now. Anyway, any parting words from
No.
a quiet oracle? And I've talked too much, and Teresa has probably not said enough for you today. But well, that's
Next time.
often the way it is. And I hope you've enjoyed it. And we'll see you next week, still from India. A couple of weeks left on retreat here. So thanks for tuning in, and let us know how it goes in the comments. If you're following along, please interact and let us know how you're finding it. And if you want us to speak on anything else, or if we're missing out anything, because it's always much more fun. But we definitely feel that you're there. So let us know that you are. All right. Bye for now. See you
Bye.
next week.